Notice these multiples. Notice these multiples. Why are people paying so much more for revenue in the pharmaceutical industry? Why are people paying so much more for EBIT in the pharmaceutical industry than the airlines?
Operating margins in the tech industry are like 8 times higher than in the airline industry.
So one difference is the margins, but what else?
Higher growth at bigger spreads or real spreads.
High growth at high spread, a lot of value, high multiple. Growth at negative spread, terrible multiples. This is just key value drivers played out in the real world. That's what the DCS are eventually going to tell you. This is just a shortcut. All right, questions? And we could show Verizon. I think you guys are getting this. You know, why is Verizon trading at the highest EV to revenue of the three companies? They have the highest margin. Everything else is very similar. Although Verizon does spend more to get that margin, which is kind of hurting them, but highest margin and you can call it a little bit higher growth, but that's why they're trading at higher EV to revenue, 251 versus 2.3. But I want to get to how we build these so you can actually do your analysis and do your homework for next week, right? So what you're going to be doing is I'm going to give you data. So you create three companies, basically put them into this format, and then you analyze them, premium or discount, one company against the other two. For PE, for EV to EBIT, EV to revenue, that's going to be your homework assignment for next week. Okay. So what I did is I posted earlier tonight in Elms. So we'll do this together. The first one in class. Under the files folder, under week 5, I did a folder called multiples in class. Okay. So the companies that I put in here are Costco, Target, and Walmart. These are all the screenshots and analyst reports that you need to basically do this exercise, right? And I put in here in the files folder a file called multiples homework. And this is going to be your homework assignment doing with what we're about to do for Estee Lauder, Procter & Gamble, and who's RKT? Ricketts. Okay. So those are going to be, this is your homework files. That's actually loaded in the assignment, but that's actually where the base data is. Okay. So what I'm going to do, and because I'm going to be jumping around a lot, I'm going to share my entire desktop. A lot of stuff going on. All right. So we're going to start with multiples in class. These files, right? Which I actually have in this folder on my desktop. Okay. So this is, oh, we're going to upload that file. Let me upload that file. So I'm going to give you a blank version. Oh, it is already up there. Multiples assignment in class. It's already there. That's like the blank version of the file with no data in it for Costco, Walmart, and Target. And you'll use this file, just change the names for Procter & Gamble, Estee Lauder, and Ricketts, right? So I'm going to open up that Excel file. All right, so starting, there's 2 tabs, PE, EV to EBIT. Start out with PE, Costco. You'll get the data from their EEO screen. All right, first thing you're going to need is the expected net income for Costco. And we're gonna use the second forward year. Same as before. So second forward year, count the columns, 1, 2. Expected net income, 7906. Okay. I then need an expected return on equity. This is remember we're doing the key value drivers equation, which is a perpetuity. So what I need is a perpetuity return on equity. Like, what is the long-term return on equity? Not what is the second year's return on equity? So down here, the analysts actually forecast the next 4 years. So last year, Costco's actual return on equity, 27.5%, 29, 29, 27, 25. Costco's been pretty consistent over time. So I think somewhere between 25 and 26 might be reasonable. So I'm going to use 26 for their long-term cost of equity. Okay. This one's a little more subjective, but the idea is I need a long-term cost of equity. Next, I need their cost of equity today, or sorry, return equity. That's off the WACC. Costco WACC today. Cost of equity, 9.7%. Right there. So 9.7%. What is their PE second forward year today? Okay. Today, PE second forward year, 1, 2, 46.18. So process, put in the income, put in the ROE, put in the cost of equity, put in the actual PE that we observe in the marketplace today, solve for the growth, kind of like we did in our DCF. Okay, so tools, goal seek. So set cell PE, calculate PE in B9 to the PE I observe in the marketplace today, 46.18, by changing the growth rate, which is B3. So basically, today, the market's using about an 8.22% growth in net income to justify that PE, given that spread. I'm going to do the same thing for Walmart. So Walmart today, EEO. And so the reason
Professor, it looks like there's a question.
go ahead, Lucas.
Lucas.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sarah. Professor, can you just show where to find the PE again? I missed that.
I'm going to do that for Walmart. This is the Walmart EEO.
Okay.
And by the way, the reason I'm using these screenshots from today, not the ones we did 2 weeks ago, or last week, whatever it was, is because the price has changed. So these are literally screenshots from today. You want to do them all at the same time. You have your data from, it would be consistent. All right. So right now, net income for Walmart next year, second forward year, 21,591 right there. So 21,591. Right. Return on equities for Walmart right here. Last year, 19%, then 22, 22 and a half, 22, 21. So 21 to 22, these 21 and a half. Right. These are fairly consistent earners. And then today, their cost of equity off the WACC screen, Walmart WACC. Cost of equity is 8%. Okay. So 8% cost of equity. And the PE, which was your question, you can see down here. Down here, this is the EEO, same as what we were doing. We did our DCF. Second forward year, 1, 2. So it's this column. PE, 25.22, right there. So 25.22. So then we're just going to goal seek, or we could iterate. So I can start putting like 3, 4, 4, not 48. Or I could just goal seek, which is just faster than iterating. Goal seek, set cell, calculated PE to the observed PE, 25.22, by changing the G, and Walmart's G, 4.95. and then we do target. Same thing. So target EEO. Right. Second forward year net income, 4704. Return on equity last year, 34, 29, 29, 30, 27. I don't know, he's like 28. Sorry, 28. Okay. There's a little bit more of an art than a science to, I'm not just averaging, I'm trying to think about what is a reasonable long-term number using the next 4 years as a proxy. And then cost of equity for target is on the WACC. Today, 10.7. And their second forward year PE at target, 12.97, right down there. So for target, if I goal seek their growth based on those numbers, $12.97 by changing the G. Okay. So that would be the data for Costco, Walmart, and Target. I went through that relatively quickly, but questions where I got anything, why I did what I did, how I did it. Hopefully I was mostly able to see what I did.
I have a quick question for you.
Oh.
I get why you're doing goal seek to find out what the market's doing, but wouldn't you want to set the G?
Well, we talked about this, we put together a DCF model, potentially. But the problem is, and I'll show it to you here. If I made Costco's ROE 30%, watch what happens to the PE. 46 to 49. If I make Costco's G 9%, watch what happens to the PE. The challenge is slight changes in G can have dramatic impacts on valuation, whether you're doing DCF or whether you're doing multiples. That's why you want companies to be in stable states. Well, that's ideal. Well, Costco, Walmart, and Target are still expected to be in growth mode. So trying to figure out what that growth is, and I say we can't do it that way, but slight nuances in growth have big differences in value. So an easier approach is the spreads are more predictable. So if the spreads are more predictable and tend to be more constant, then basically we back in, if values, growth, and spread, if we know the spreads, solve for the growth. What you're suggesting is if we know the growth, we can solve for the spread. I'm not saying we can't do it that way, but it makes it a little bit more challenging because the idea that growth distorts things so much.
Sorry, I guess my question was, wouldn't you, like, after you know the spreads, like, wouldn't you want to solve for growth to get your value of what you think the PA should be?
Well, right now, think of this as like the as is. It's not the target. This is like the as is. We're valuing these companies based on their stock prices today. So this is not an opinion. It's just we're backing into the current stock prices. So this is an as is version for multiples.
Gotcha, that makes sense.
But I will tell you, hint, hint to, for example, the Ford team, when you're doing your multiples in 2 weeks, every now and then you have to go the other way. Like when your spread doesn't make sense in the next few years, you might actually have to create a growth, forecast a growth that creates a spread. Because the spread that you're going to create in the next 4 years may not be reflective of the long term. But that's for next week. You're not going to have that problem with this week's assignment. Other questions about the PE? All right, let's put together the enterprise value to EBIT multiples. So this down here is the EV to EBIT formula. Okay, that was derived in the lecture notes from the book. These are the four things we need: G, tax rate, ROIC, WACC, right? And then these are the observed enterprise value multiples from the EEO. So since I'm on the EEO, I'm going to start with Costco's EV to revenue. So Costco. All right, second forward year, EV to revenue, 1.32. EV to revenue, EV to sales, basically same thing, 0.32. EV to EBIT, second forward year, 35.12 today. Okay. Tax rate. We can get that off of the company guidance screen. So for Costco, the guidance, same as our DCF, 26%. We'd actually done that. We did our modeling last week. WACC, today's WACC for Costco, 9.6%. So cost of equity on the previous screen, WACC on this screen, 9.6. Type tonight. All right. I'm going to come back to the ROICs. I'm just going to put these in first for the companies. So for Walmart, their WACC today was 7.4. %. They're off their EEO. Their EV to revenue today at Walmart is 0.86. Their EV to EBIT today is, for second forward year, 18.95. And we'll quickly do their tax rate from Walmart's guidance was 25.5 in the out years. 25.5. All right. And then for Target, their second forward year EV to revenue is 0.71. And second forward year EV to EBIT is 12.15. And if we remember, Target didn't give us guidance on tax rate when we looked at Target a couple weeks ago. So we said if we don't have guidance, we use the analyst as a proxy. We said use JP Morgan. So if you remember, we looked up the tax rate expectation for JP Morgan. Search, find this way. When we did Target, same as the DCF, and I believe we used 22% in our modeling. Same here, same tax rate as the DCF, 22. So no guidance, use analysts. Or come up with your own estimate, but you got to have something for the tax rate. Okay. And then today, the WACC for Target was 9.3. So before I go further, those 12 numbers, does everybody know where I got them? You following along, putting them in yourself? Questions about any of that? All right. So this one becomes a little more challenging because the analysts don't directly forecast ROIC, not Bloomberg, not the consensus estimates. So we need a forecast, which is the perpetuity ROIC for the company. Not a 1-year forecast, not even a 3-year forecast, a perpetuity. It's kind of like what we're trying to do here with the ROE. Okay. So I'm going to give you 3 ways to answer this question. And you're going to have to decide when you do a company, which one's the best. Ideally, when you do your as is DCF, which we did for Costco this week, this continuing value ROIC is that number. So ideally, if you did a DCF as is, your essentially perpetuity ROIC, you've kind of estimated. And in our modeling for the homework assignment we just did for Costco, 31%. That would be the perpetuity ROIC. For Walmart, we did an enterprise DCF. And we did that enterprise DCF for Walmart. We came up with 14.4%. And for Target, when we did our as is, we came up with an ROIC and perpetuity of 14.4. That was Target. Should be the same. Walmart. The right company here. No, that was Target. Target was 14.4. Got the wrong file name here. What was Walmart? So unfortunately, I don't know what I did. Did I overwrite that file? %. All right. So that's the cleanest way to do it. Now, you may not have a enterprise DCF model when you put together these multiple spreadsheets. So method number 2, this is not ideal, but method number 2, you can go to the RV screen and look at the current spreads. Multiples. Here's the spread of Costco, Walmart, and Target last year. And so the question is, if these companies' future looks a lot like the present, then the ROICs today look a lot like the ROICs tomorrow. And so you can kind of use the current ROICs to infer your future ROICs. So if we didn't do an ROIC, if we didn't do a DCF, we said, okay, Costco, looks a lot similar. And the reason we know that is because of these ROEs. There's a relationship between return on equity and ROIC. And so basically, if these ROEs are pretty consistent in the mid-20s, that probably means whatever ROIC today, they're going to probably have something similar to that tomorrow. So if we didn't do a DCF, we could probably use 21% here, and that would probably be a reasonable proxy. Now, because we did a DCF, we're actually getting, I think, a better number. But if we didn't do a DCF, we could have put in 21. Tomorrow looks like today. That's less than ideal. And you can see the difference between doing a detailed DCF and kind of doing this kind of kludge process. But you may need to do the kludge process. Because what you're trying to put in here is a representative ROIC in the future. That's method number 2. Everybody with me on those 2 methods so far?
Can you repeat that last method one more time?
Which one? The last method?
Yeah.
So method number 1 is do an enterprise DCF as is valuation. That's your best option. Option 2, shortcut. Look at the current performance of the company, which is the RV screen, the spread screen. We did since EIC analysis. Think about that. Right now, Costco's spread 21.2 versus 9.56, about a 21% ROIC. You say, okay, they're making about a 21% ROIC. If I kind of look at the ROE, it's pretty consistent over time, which means the ROIC should be pretty consistent over time. So somewhere around 21 must be what the future ROIC looks like if the ROE is staying pretty flat. So today looks like tomorrow. There's no big differences with tomorrow versus today. So I'll just infer that the current approximates the future. Less than ideal, but it's a kludge that you can do as a shortcut. But notice that 21 is a lot lower than 35 or 31. You see the difference?
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, if you didn't get a DCF, which you're not going to have for Estee Lauder, this might be one of the methods that you'll need to use. Which leads to kind of the second version of that I'll call method number 3, is there's got to be a relationship between ROE and ROIC, right? Mathematically, ROIC times the leverage ratio equals ROE, right? So therefore, if the ROEs and ROICs are going to be correlated if the leverage of a company doesn't change. So basically, if the ROEs are inching up, your ROIC should be inching up. If your ROEs are inching down, your ROIC should be inching down. There should be a relationship between your ROIC and your ROE. Okay, because essentially, I'll do it over here. I'm shortcutting and I'm ignoring taxes for simplicity. But the general concept is, what is ROIC? It's profit divided by debt plus equity. And again, I'm oversimplifying, not worrying about non-operating items, right? And what is ROE? Profit divided by equity. Now, one's net income, one's NOPAT. As I said, I'm kind of simplifying here. But here's the idea. How do you get from ROIC to ROE? You multiply by debt plus equity. Divided by equity. The D plus E's cancel out and you're left with return on equity. So the point is that is leverage. So the idea is this relationship, ROIC to ROE, you take ROIC times the leverage ratio, you get your ROE. I'm oversimplifying, but that's the idea, that they should be correlated. So if this stays constant, your leverage ratio, then the ROIC and ROE should track up and down together. So the idea is if you have an ROE, you can kind of infer an ROIC. If you have an ROIC, you can infer an ROE. Right? That gets more complicated. You won't have to do that this week, but we're gonna get some examples next week in class where you actually have to do this. Okay, and it'll make more sense when we're struggling through to explain that. For this assignment, you can use either one of the first 2 methods. Right? Actually, probably the first method, because you're not going to do enterprise as is valuations on those 3 companies. Once you put in all the data, then you analyze, or sorry, you solve for G's. And then you analyze. So going back here, we goal seek. So what is the G for Costco? How do we get rid of that? Okay. What is the G for Costco? Tools, goal seek, set sell, EV to EBIT, 235.12 by solving for G. For Walmart, goal seek, set sell to 18.95 by solving for G. And for Target, to hit the delete button. Tools, goal seek a second time, set cell to 18.95 by solving for G. Okay. And goal seek one last time. That to 12.15. Solving for G. All right, those are the three G's for the EV to EBIT multiple. Once we do that, we then explain the premiums or discounts. Why is Costco trading at a premium to Target and Walmart? Why is on both the PE as well as the EV to EBIT? Costco against Walmart, Costco against Target. I know I went through that very quickly. This is being recorded. Questions? Let's go back to the PEs. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. Were you guys creating this file along with me or just kind of watching?
Creating it.
You're creating it.
Creating it.
Great. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to give you 10 minutes and I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. Let's talk amongst yourselves and do the premiums and discounts. If for some reason you didn't create it, I'm going to put this file into that files folder right now. And you can grab it there. But premium or discount, why is Costco trading a premium for PE? Walmart, Target, EV to EBIT, Walmart, Target, and then we'll practice one last time explaining, which is kind of a dry run for your homework next week. So I'm going to stop the video, put you to breakout teams, and let me put this file into this folder. With the data in it now.
Similar to last week, is the expectation that the write-up that we're going to do for this week's homework also minimum of 500 words?
I'm not saying it needs to be exactly 500 words, but like I don't want to see like 2 paragraphs.
Got
You
it.
need to make sure because you got to cover, all 3 drivers for the PE for one against both companies, and then all 4 drivers for one against the other companies. So I assume that that's going to be, a few hundred words. So
Perfect.
take guide. With my undergrads, it's a hard cutoff. I don't even read papers for less than 500 words. All right, you guys, your MBAs or master's students, like I'm okay if you want to, not exactly at 500 words, but answer the questions. That's the key. And use numbers. Refer to numbers, please. Don't just use words without numbers. It gets even worse when I'm reading a paper and you're not using numbers because it gets even harder to follow what you're saying. Okay. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to stop the recording. Like I said, give you 10 minutes to kind of do that. And then we'll practice one last time. And then we'll reintroduce the homework assignment for next week and wrap up. All right. Recording paused. All right, welcome back. Recording back on. First, there's data question. Anybody have questions about the data, where it came from, how we got it, where we used it, how to put it in? All right, so how about the PE, Costco versus Walmart? Who wants to go first? I'll put my version back up here, file.
I can jump in here.
All right, so do you have a file?
I do.
Why don't you throw it up, because I'm having trouble finding. I got like 10 different Excel versions open too.
All right, the first item we noted was just the growth rate, and we just looked at Costco versus Walmart.
Yeah.
The growth rate of 8.22 compared to the 4.95
Yep.
benefits Costco there. The spread right here is 16.3 for Costco, 13.5 for Walmart,
Okay.
benefiting Costco, but the downside for Costco is it is a little bit riskier for the cost of equity there, but items 1 and 2 outweigh that.
Yeah, so the 46 PE versus the 25, great. And I like the way you laid it out. So that's a good start. You want to do target while you're here? And you guys
I don't, yeah.
just kind of, without writing things down, somebody in the team to help as well.
Yeah, well, looking at the growth there, I didn't pull the differences, but for the sake of time, Costco wins in that category.
Okay, 4%.
The spread is 17.3 for Target, which is a little bit better than the 16.3 for Costco.
Okay. So why is Costco trading at such a high PE then?
The growth, projected growth.
8%. Because remember, 4 and 8 doesn't sound big, but when you compound, it's dramatic. So it's that very high growth at a high spread leads to high multiples. And what we know from key value drivers is when the spread gets high, changes in spread don't matter that much. When you get above 20, 30, 40%, the incremental differences are minute and spread driving value. Then growth is everything. Okay. So that's also playing out here. So high spread companies, it's all about the growth. Costco's the growth. How about, great job. Did you guys get to EV to EBIT?
We did.
All right. So how about Costco?
What's that?
Costco, Walmart.
Costco, Walmart, expected growth rate, same numbers there, benefiting Costco. Tax rate has little to no effect here. The spread for Costco is 21.5 versus Walmart's 7.6. Smaller margin would hurt Costco, but they're able to make up for that with the growth. And then the higher WACC is riskier for Costco, but again, they make up for that with the growth.
Yeah, but that's the point, that the WACC is hurting Costco's EV to EBIT, but not enough to offset that high growth, high spread. And make sure you use numbers when you write this up in your papers.
Yep.
Okay. So you're doing such a great job. You want to do the EV to sales for Costco, Walmart?
We did not get to EV to sales on that.
So why don't you leave it up? Somebody else, EV to sales, Costco, Walmart. Why is Costco getting more EV to sales?
I guess I can kind of chime in. I think maybe an idea. So even though Costco does have worse margins than Walmart, across the board with 3.8 to 4.5, 3.4, their productivity is significantly better, being at 0.3 to 0.23. When having that much larger productivity, given the the larger growth, and I guess significantly better spread, it justifies a lot bigger premium on their EV to sales.
Yeah, you said 0.3. I think it's 0.09. It might be.
Sorry, I meant to say 0.9. Yeah, apologies.
But that's okay. You had the right idea. But yeah, they're high, great productivity at Costco, giving them a high ROIC is what's making them more attractive from a sales standpoint, EV to sales. All right. Questions from anybody about any of this? Good job.
So what was the reason that even though I guess maybe share my screen real quick just to talk about it real quick. So was the reason that Walmart that Walmart almost trading at double the PE, was that just because even though so Target had a better spread, so from this just spread alone, you'd think Walmart would be trading at a lower PE. Just, I mean, the growth rates, there is a 0.8% growth rate, but you wouldn't think that would justify almost
Go-
double the PE.
Go
Is
to
it just because?
sell, go to
is it just-
sell D5. put it-
Okay,
Go to D5 and put in 8%. There you go.
okay, so it's mainly because of that. Because what I thought it was because given they have a slightly higher growth rate and they have such a large net income, and usually when you're a bigger company, it's harder to grow that. It's harder to grow the income. I thought that was justifying the bigger
Yeah.
thing, but you're saying it's
Remember-
mostly.
Go to C2,
Mhm.
make that $1.
Oh, right.
Remember that PE, any multiple, is a function of growth and spread. The actual dollar amount doesn't matter.
Mhm.
There's a sizing aspect to that, but we talked about, kind of size versus quality. The quality is really what the PE is about.
Okay.
So, yeah, it gets harder to grow when you're bigger. So that I don't doubt that. But why is Target trading at a discount to Walmart? You kind of said it, it's the risk. They get a much higher risk profile at Target, 10.7 cost of equity versus 8 at Walmart.
Yeah, because
And
if recession
Walmart
hits,
does have a little bit better
Yeah.
growth and a little bit
Yeah.
better growth at a high spread, but really it's all about the risk between the two.
Okay. Yeah, and we talked about that a bit ago, right?
But-
During
but this is-
the more cyclical, if they
Yeah.
get hit by inflation harder and stuff.
But I'll also point out, there's a reason why this is called advanced, okay? Not just the class. This is advanced analysis for what you're doing here. This is not run-of-the-mill multiple stuff that most finance class teach. This is fairly sophisticated. So there's a lot I'm throwing at you. So it's gonna take a little time to absorb. So this week, like I said, you'll practice with 3 companies. Next week during class, we're gonna practice more with some more nuanced stuff. But to get into the nuanced stuff, we kind of need to get this. This is probably the other second hardest part of the class after the conversion stuff you guys had to do. But regardless, you start to get a rhythm, start to see this, the more you practice. Okay,
Okay,
so let's talk about practice. Thank you for doing that. So I'm gonna take
sure.
Aaron
Sorry.
back.
Sorry.
It's okay. So your next week homework assignment, which has already been posted. Here under assignments it's called multiples. So I'm giving you the data, which I put all on the screen. It's also in that files folder, under week 5, actually, for the week 6 assignment. But you're going to do Procter & Gamble, Estee Lauder, and Reckitt, which is a British consumer goods company. But regardless, these are all the screenshots, same as what we just had. Okay, and if it didn't have the guidance, then I gave you an annual report, but I think all of these had the guidance for the tax rate. So basically, you should be able to put together the data, and then same thing, write up a paper explaining premium or discount Procter & Gamble versus the other 2 for each of the 3 multiples. That's the assignment. You're welcome to work in pairs again this week. 4 homework pairs if you want a study buddy. Otherwise, we'll debrief this next week and then do some more practice and then talk much more about your group projects. And then next week, I'll put the data in for the companies that's more recent for your multiples for your group projects. Because then you'll do that in 2 weeks, this analysis in your PowerPoint. All right. That gets us to the end of the class today. Anything before we send everybody away?
I guess maybe it's a long-winded question, so I shouldn't ask at the end. I kind of dislike before and after hour trading. And I've heard talk of 24-hour trading. Why did they even start before and after hour trading? Is it just so that institutions could take advantage, or?
Well, I guess in today's world, people would like to have the option outside the markets to buy and sell, but the problem is that it's less regulated and more importantly, it's not as liquid because not all the buyers and sellers are there. So you may or may not be getting true accurate pricing.
Yeah, sometimes I'll see like massive spikes just in like the post and before market, and it always looks kind of sketchy to me. But
Well, like I said, because it's not a full open market and the trading may or not be as transparent. You're you're in the Wild West there.
Hmm.
So there's no sheriff as much monitoring the town when you're out in the Wild West. So at a personal level, I do not recommend after hours trading.
All right, thank you.
All right. We'll see everybody next week. Have a good week.